Good evening. This is the Canby Urban Renewal Agency special meeting of May 8th, 2013. The first item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you could remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, we have an addition to the agenda, which is the consent agenda, which complies totally of the approval of the April 10th, 2013 minutes of the Urban Renewal Agency.
I didn't even notice that was missing.
I was noticing it was a bit scant today, so.
Well, I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting and the consent agenda, as you just stated, for April 10th, 2013.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hodson, seconded by Commissioner Coleman to approve the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes of the April 10th, 2013 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now we have opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. Do you have any community announcements?
I just have three quick ones. Canby Excavating will start work on a sewer main extension on North Cedar Street between Northwest 3rd and Northwest 4th Streets. That street work starts May 9th, tomorrow, and will last until May 20th. They will work between 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, and access on North Cedar will be limited to local traffic only. Emergency vehicles will be able to get through, but this will not disrupt the truck route on Northwest 3rd. If you have questions, call Public Works at 503-266-0798. The Canby Public Library will host a day-long event on May 21st called The Art of Peacemaking. For the complete program schedule, visit the library website at www.canbylibrary.org. And then just a reminder, city offices will be closed on May 27th for Memorial Day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now is an opportunity for citizen input on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone interested? And I see one no, shaking his head no. All right, we'll move on to the next item, resolutions and ordinances. Doesn't appear we have any this evening.
None.
Okay. Next item of business is new business, and the first item under that category is facade improvement application for Anderson Fair Place. Jamie?
So Anderson Fair Place is located at the buildings between 687 and 703 Southwest 1st Avenue on Highway 99. Anderson Properties, the owner of the building, is interested in removing the current sign in front of the building and replacing it with an updated monument sign. They said that they were looking to model that monument sign after the one at Providence Health Center in Canby. So if you want to talk a little bit about what you have.
Sure. We currently have 6 offices in that complex. 2 are vacant. We talked with our commercial realtor, Martin Stone. His one recommendation was that we replace the signage in front to make it more prominent from the street. So our goal, like your goal, is to attract new businesses to Canby. And we worked with Ramsey Signs to come up with what we think is a very nice design. And I'll bring that up, I guess, to show it to you. And Nancy can talk a little about the design when we get to it.
And just to be clear.
Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one's the night photo of what it'll look like at night, and one's the day, which has the setback, you know, it shows all the setback.
And this will replace the existing signage that's there. We've also done quite a bit of landscaping work there, some new paint.
Now, this is the building that's just west of the pizza place.
Just west of Fultano's, right?
Yeah, okay.
That's a big improvement.
Yeah.
It's a substantial improvement, yeah.
Why don't you hand me the one so I can hold it for Tony? Put it up on
On the screen?
our camera.
He might have got it from there.
It's a little smaller, a little more detailed.
This is this is the existing sign that was there. And here's the building from the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a great addition.
Yeah.
that'd be terrific.
And this is going to be located in the middle bed, before the other one's right at the driveway, but this is going to be centered in the middle bed. And it has its,
We have 2 vacancies there now.
Yeah.
We may split one unit into 2, if we find the right renters.
And so the proposed facade improvement includes removing the current sign, providing hardware and mounting materials for a new monument sign, and installation of the sign, so that we're keeping with what the facade program, not for the exact signage, but for the
For the
material.
frame.
Yes.
Okay.
The Walt Daniels amendment, as it were.
Well, it's a good amendment.
Yeah.
And this was all presented to our planning director as well as our design committee. The planning director has okayed it, and the design committee just shared that the proposal looked very good and that it has their support.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have a comment. First of all, I do think we need an introduction here.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sean Reagan, I represent Anderson Properties. I'm an Anderson by marriage.
And,
Nancy
please.
Keller with Ramsey Signs.
Well, I often avoid having any comments about the aesthetics by elected officials. We're really not qualified, but I know what I like, and this is nice. And also, Sean, I really like the idea of businesses modeling after things that we already have, that we have enough of a hodgepodge, and when we can try and get things along the lines of some sort of consistency, I think that's great. And just a huge thank you to the Anderson-Reagan family. I think this is your 3rd improvement on
It is.
Highway 99.
Thank you very much.
The most notable being minifigs, which
Right.
people continue to say what a huge improvement that has been. So
We're delighted with that one.
Thanks for your love of Canby.
I think moving the sign to where you're going to put it, that's going to help the safety of the ingress, egress, or the egress,
Yes, it
actually.
will.
So you can see further down the street.
And they took those big trees out that were right there.
Yeah, we just did a lot of landscaping work and other remodel work there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't even know that there was a sign until she showed that picture, and I was like,
I remember that.
yeah.
I was trying to remember the sign too until you showed the old one. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's-
this is a great, thank you guys very much.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Very good.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion, if I may, Mr. Chair. I move to approve a matching grant of up to $25,000 for facade improvements to the Anderson Fair Place under the guidelines of the Downtown Canby Facade Improvement Program.
Second.
I'll let Commissioner Ryder second it.
Motion by Commissioner Parker, second by Commissioner Ryder to approve the facade improvement application for Anderson Fair Place. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you.
And if also I can thank Jamie Stickle, our Main Street manager, for her management of this program, of getting these applications in and through.
Very cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Economic development updates.
Get out of here before the sun goes down.
Renata, are you,
6:15.
oh, we're going to do
Jamie first?
Jamie first.
Get me twice. All right. Jamie Stickle, Main Street Manager. I have the Main Street update. On May 3rd, we had First Friday, where 9 businesses participated. It's a great partnership where businesses offer food specials, retail specials, hair specials. I know that some people participated in that on our Urban Renewal Agency.
You got to have it to take part of it.
Pardon?
You have to have it to take part.
Well, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but somebody also known as the mayor may or may not have had some extra flair in his hair on Friday night.
Which made it to Facebook, so I saw it from
Yeah.
the state.
Or Yes, keep it in Portland.
Keep it, yeah. The cash mob also returned in May 2013. The process changed a little bit. In order to help the businesses reach out to their patrons who follow them on Facebook, that maybe come in their shop a little bit earlier than 5 o'clock, who might not know about cash mob, we started to announce at noon on the Canby Main Street Facebook page that where the cash mob location would be so that we can start spreading the word earlier. Then we still ask that people meet in front of City Hall at 6 p.m. and then walk to the cash mob location. This month's cash mob location was Miss Adeline's, and she said she was very happy with the amount of people that came through her door, and she said they started coming through about 3:30, 4 o'clock is when she started to get busy, and she was busy through the rest of the night, which is really encouraging, and so we will encourage people to follow this program as it continues throughout the summer. The Garden Spot Run has been postponed until September 7th. There was another run scheduled for May 4th in Canby. That was a 5K. And so we postponed to September 7th. It will still feature a 10K, 5K, a kiddie run, and a doggy dash. And we're working on coordinating all efforts of this event, including music, children's activities, vendors. We're still looking for volunteers, vendors, and sponsors. And if you are interested or know somebody who might be interested, you can visit the website, gardenspotrun.com, or our Facebook page, or contact Jamie Stickle at the city. Mother's Day is Sunday, May 12th, and in order to build off the success of the Valentine's Day event that we had downtown, we're going to do a Mother's Day promotion, and it will be free for businesses to participate in, marketed through our Main Street website, newsletter, and Facebook page. It's just a way to bring people down, and because we're not asking the businesses to spend any money, it doesn't even need to be a special where you're giving any money off. It just give people a reason to walk in your door. So it was successful with Valentine's Day. I hope that it's successful with our Mother's Day and brings some great people down. We Speak Cycling. Clackamas County Tourism and Cultural Affairs reached out to the Main Street program about holding a presentation for Main Street businesses to expand their outreach to tourists that cycle to or through Canby. In order to maximize the effect that this training can have, we've reached out to the Canby Area Chamber of Commerce so that all Canby area businesses will have the opportunity to attend this presentation, which will be held Monday, May 20th at 6 p.m., and that will be held at the new police station's community room. Then one thing that has happened since the packets went out, we've started something called Downtown Draw, which is a way to highlight a business. In the work plan, we called it a business highlight, but to build off the downtown name, we called it Downtown Draw. And this, for the first month, we focused on Puddin' River Chocolates, who is celebrating their 5th anniversary downtown. And it was, the way that it works is just a little one-on-one with a downtown business to get to know a little bit more about what they do. You know, by the name, you can know that Puddin' River Chocolates and Wine Bar sells chocolates and wine, but that doesn't really give you a sense of the feeling of the business. And so it's a way to delve a little deeper, give people a reason to learn a little bit more about their community or learn a little bit more about Canby businesses, and hopefully bring them in the door. The Historic Review Board, we have received 3 applications from people interested in joining the Historic Review Board. A 4th application is expected, and we have sent out requests so that we can have our first meeting and get working on the Certified Local Government Grant that we applied for and we were awarded in April. The National Main Street Conference was held on April 13th through April 17th in New Orleans. The opening ceremony included speaker Jeff Speck, who wrote Walkable City, How Downtown Can Save America One Step at a Time. He spoke on several things, including how making downtowns more pedestrian and cycling friendly can help to boost the economy. Other sessions that I attended included information on volunteer recruitment, and retaining the volunteers that Main Street programs already have, branding and marketing small communities, and utilizing historic buildings to their full potential. A lot of this information was also available online, and so I intend to make a packet of the printable information so that it's available, obviously, to myself, other city staff, and then any volunteers that are interested in using it.
That would be a huge fine if you were at Rotary.
Maybe anyway. Pass the bucket this way.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay.
He's sorry.
Moving on to economic restructuring. The Clackamas County Main Street Program, it currently has longtime Main Street manager Patty Webb on contract to help 5 Main Street communities within Clackamas County. She's going to be working with Canby to provide training to merchants, and this training, we just decided will be held in the middle of June. I don't have that date on me, I think it's June 11th. And it's going to be open to Main Street volunteers, downtown businesses, or anybody that wants to have information on the Main Street program. It's going to be held after work at about 6 o'clock so that we can hope to reach out to some of those businesses that close a little earlier, or maybe they can have somebody cover for the last hour or 2 hours and still make it to the training. Moving on to design. The City of Canby received the facade application that you just saw for the Anderson Fair Place, and they're going to be removing the current sign, replacing it with a monument sign. In addition, the Davies Clinic met with the Planning Department and the Economic Development Department to discuss preliminary plans for facade improvements. Dr. Bridgman, the new owner of the Davies Clinic, is looking to update the facade by changing the paint palette to complement the facade of the Andrus Building, adding brickwork around the front of the pillars, and replacing exterior windows. She's also going to be changing the interior of the building and is looking to use the City of Canby's revolving loan fund to help her in that. And those improvements should come before you at the June meeting. And then the flower baskets are planting time. So the flower baskets are going to be arriving in downtown Canby tomorrow, May 9th, probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. It's a great partnership between the City of Canby, Canby High School, the Canby Livability Coalition, Swan Island Dahlias, and Aurora Landscaping helps us out with maintaining those. And then on May 15th, the planting of the dahlias on the Second Avenue pots will occur, where we have, I think, 6 different kinds of dahlias coming this year, so more than we've ever had, and those are donated by Swan Island Dahlias.
Jamie, when's the dahlia planting again?
May 15th.
May 15th. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Greg?
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for the Main Street program behaving not like a government. Sometimes people think that government isn't always adaptable, but I think the fact that we're willing to sample, change, move up the time of our cash mob shows the type of flexibility that sometimes government isn't always given the credit for. So I want to thank you. And also, thank you and one of our volunteers, Greg Perez, for the incredible outreach that you folks have done with your TV spots. Do you want to tell them about what happened at the store the other day?
It's embarrassing enough. I get very embarrassed having to be on the TV. In fact, being at these meetings makes me a little nervous. So Greg Perez and I do a monthly What's Happening in Canby in order to get the word out about events and just happenings, whether it's a meeting that people might be interested in attending. We've moved the location every time to something new so that we're showcasing a different business within the downtown. And it's a really great way to reach out to people who might not be getting their information from Facebook or from our newsletter, or maybe don't even know what the Canby Main Street program is, although hopefully there's nobody who doesn't know what the Canby Main Street program is. And then last week we had 6th graders come down and help remove the Nandina heavenly bamboo from the pot so that we can replace it with our dahlia flowers. And a 6th grader looked at me and said, "Aren't you on TV?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I am." And then I explained to a group of 6th graders that I was on TV and what my job was, and that felt like that was my little boost for the day, until I went to the grocery store and a woman stopped me and said, "Aren't you that gal I always see on TV?" Which makes me wonder how often CTV5 is playing that thing, because I don't think I should always be on TV. But it was nice, and it's just a really great way to show that the idea and the program, which I have to give the credit to Greg Perez because he's the one that came up with it, that program was working, and we're reaching out to people who might not know me in the grocery store today, but hopefully know me tomorrow, and I can talk a little bit about the program and help spread the word. So it's been working out really great, and they're available on CTV's new website, as well as some of these urban renewal meetings are.
Super.
Great.
Thanks, Jerry.
Good job,
Thank you.
Jamie.
Any other?
I do have a
Tracy.
couple quick questions. The organization and economic restructuring, are we forming committees for those two areas yet?
We talked about doing like an economic restructuring task force. For example, when the Canby Pub, when word had it that it was possibly going away, that Commissioner Coleman had said that he would help reach out. And so it might be more of as needed, because especially with economic restructuring, a lot of that is reaching out to help fill vacancies. And as we're updating our vacancy rate, there's not very many vacancies within the downtown right now. I was happy to walk down First Avenue the other day, and we don't have a single vacancy, you know, on the business side. And then as far as organization goes, those, I keep them on here so that we can see what's happening underneath of them. The organization is a lot about volunteer recruitment, and that happens also within the committees and getting the word out. There's a merchant group that has started meeting in the downtown, and they have asked if I would join them, which I'm happy to do so. And they said, well, what about this promotions committee? And so I think a lot of that also happens by word of mouth. And so I just keep the 4 points on here so that you can see what falls underneath which one. But at this time, we don't have.
Just have the promotion and design
Yes.
committees so far. Okay, and my only other question, because I know I'll be asked, your Patty Webb,
Yes.
she's on contract. I'm just curious how that's funded.
It's through Clackamas County.
Okay.
And so
Through
it's
tourism or?
It's through the Clackamas County Main Street program.
Oh, okay.
And it's a free service to us that she's going to come to us and do a training. And she is actually going to focus on the economic restructuring and the organization. Whether that's by getting the committees to be meeting or just finding ways that we can be more active in the committees that we have, reaching out and, you know, filling some of those gaps. Although, like I said, with the vacancy, we don't have a ton of gaps, which is nice.
Well, and free is a very good price.
Free is a very good price, and she's a long-term, she worked in McMinnville for 20 years, and she's hailed in Main Street as one of the Main Street goddesses, so we're lucky that we got to be one of the cities.
Awesome.
Great.
A goddess is good, too.
Good.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Quick question,
Yes,
Jamie.
sir.
Sorry, then you can run away. When are your meetings for the promotion committee and the design
Thank
committee?
you. They're open to anybody who would like to show up. The promotions committee is the third Monday of every month at 5:30 p.m. at the Economic Development Services Building, which is 111 Northwest 2nd Avenue. However, because we are doing the We Speak Cycling thing on the 20th, which is the third Wednesday, this month it's moved to the second Wednesday. So it's the third Wednesday of every month unless otherwise stated. And, does that make sense?
No,
So-
because you said Monday first.
You
Oh,
said-
Monday,
I've
yes.
been attending on Monday.
So
Yeah.
the third Monday
Third Monday,
of every
okay.
month,
I'm sorry.
5:30, except for...
This month, or unless it's stated otherwise.
Okay.
So it'll be the
And then the
second
design,
Monday.
Second Monday. And then the design committee is actually on Wednesday at 2 p.m. at the Economic Development Services.
again, third Wednesday? Or just
Yes.
every Wednesday?
Third Wednesday.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. I apologize that my caffeine intake stops me from telling that.
Great.
I just wanted to talk about the art committee that Jamie and I, actually, we met with Laura Sattler recently, and we talked about art committee. I know this has been a subject we've talked about at council also, but we're still looking at different ways. Met with Laura Sattler and talked about the possibility of an art committee coming under the design committee, but that's kind of something I think that will have to be talked about with the design committee. Main Street. Pam Cresciato went to Lake Oswego and talked to Assistant City Manager David Donaldson and got some ideas from him. And so we're kind of coalescing that. I just wanted to let you know we haven't forgotten about it. It's still working, so, art committee. So I think there's a lot of ideas out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ready, willing, and wanting to move forward with an art committee, so.
Yeah, I like
And-
the idea of that kind of coming underneath
Coming
the
under design.
Design
piece.
I kind of like that, too, and I think Jamie and I talked about that, and it, you know, Main Street does a lot of downtown, but that doesn't mean that they don't, their scope can't be out either, I mean, underneath the design committee, so, I mean, I think we like that also, so. have one more item.
Okay.
There's a Gator Grinder Triathlon this weekend, if nobody's aware of it, and this Saturday, and it's a very popular event. I think they're open 30 minutes, and the place is, all slots are filled. And so it's going to be in town, big event this weekend. I've been told you don't want to go on that side of town if you're not interested in the Gator Grinder.
Which is headquartered at the swim center.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Renata?
Good evening. Wanted to update you on business recruitment and business retention efforts. In terms of business recruitment, I responded to a lead from Oregon City through a real estate broker. A company that's been there for quite a while is looking for 4 acres, and they don't have 4 acres in Oregon City, which is shocking, but they don't. And so we were able to present them with probably 5 different site options through this broker. And if they come to Canby, and by all indications, it seems they're pretty serious, they would bring their 50 employees and with room for expansion. So I'll keep you updated on that. Project Freedom, I've been telling you about. We submitted the application for a $125 million project on 15 acres. We learned that we were one of 15 communities in Oregon, so the competition is fierce. The company has gotten back to the state of Oregon saying that they are evaluating all the proposals, and they'll be determining their shortlist on June 3rd or thereabouts. So hopefully Canby will remain on the list for that. I'll keep you posted as I hear. Next, there was another lead, Project Cargo, which Canby was not a fit for. They wanted a 40 to 50,000 square foot building. The biggest that we have is 30,000. That's the former Pico building out in the industrial park. And then I've been busy promoting the industrial park to 3 different groups over the past 2 months or so. Most recently with the site selection expert from Business Oregon. She came out a couple of weeks ago, and I gave her the grand tour, and she was very impressed with all the progress that Canby has made. She hadn't been here in probably 8 years, so she was excited by what she saw. Before that, I presented it to the Greater Portland Inc. Representatives, which you met, I think, in February, and I also introduced it to the Business Oregon team that's involved in industrial site certification. So the profile of the park has been raised quite a bit in the past few months. In terms of business assistance, we had a great opportunity. The county has a 3D modeling program, and originally Canby wouldn't have been eligible because we were successful in getting a grant last round, but because they didn't have enough applicants, they opened it up to everybody. And we talked with 2 property owners in downtown Canby, and one of them was interested, Canby Rental. So I submitted that application on their behalf on Monday, and they're moving quickly. They should be able to determine if it's a successful application next Monday, May 13th, or somewhere shortly thereafter. So we'll be able to know if we were successful there. If so, they can do the 3D modeling fairly quickly, within a month or so. And it's impressive. It's a computer model where you can zoom around all sides, up and around. Of course, you can have a printed version. They do back of the envelope calculations in terms of square footage and average price per square foot. So, and it's all done to Canby design standards. So it's a very helpful tool in terms of talking with partners, potential investors, or banks when you get to the financing stage. So it'll position them well. They're really wanting to do a redevelopment on their site, probably 2 stories, probably the entire footprint of the front part of the building, and they would be looking to hopefully have that constructed by spring 2015.
Wow, great.
So we're excited about that. It's a pretty high-profile corner in downtown Canby. The planning department's been busy as well. There have been 3 applications that have moved through our office since the beginning of April, or since the end of April, so 2 weeks. There's a SMS Auto Fabric. They're adding a 14,400 square foot warehouse. There's Proactive Sports, they're going to construct a 12,000 square foot warehouse addition. And then Johnson Controls is going to construct a one-story, 2,970 square foot enclosed loading dock. So businesses are expanding in Canby.
Great.
I met with Product Manufacturing. That was one of the first companies I worked with when I came to Canby, just to touch base a year and a half later, and they couldn't be more pleased with their Canby location. They're doing very well. They've purchased additional equipment. Originally, when they moved here, I think they had about 20 employees. They're up to 29 now. So big success story, and they're have additional clients and doing very well. Let's see. We've been busy implementing website additions based on a number of things that you've approved in the past while. One is the economic development strategy. We have a separate website now that has the whole strategy, the executive summary, and all of the background reports that led up to that. We also have a new film and video website, and just yesterday we sent out letters to 20 property owners that we thought showed great promise as a film and video location. I'll be following up with them with phone calls tomorrow, encouraging them to take pictures and submit their sites to the state database for film and video, so that Canby is highlighted very well. Also, we updated the why Canby is a great location section of our website. That's based on the flyer that I presented to you in February, so that's now online as well. I'll be focusing quite a bit on making a lot of additional changes to the website over the next couple weeks. We had a great community response team meeting last Wednesday. That was focused on transportation. We invited representatives from Clackamas County and ODOT to come and talk about projects that were scheduled for short-term completion, projects that were in the horizon in a competitive way with other communities, and ways that we can work together, ways that we can have our projects be more successful in the process. And that led to some, I thought, good conclusions. They agreed that they would have quarterly meetings and invite communities like Canby, Greg in particular, to represent Canby's interests, to talk about coordinating and transportation. They also were going to share information about Connect Oregon as that becomes available, because we'd like to position our Team Track project for that funding source. One of the surprises that came out of the meeting was that the Art Road connection, which had been rated fairly highly, has now fallen to third tier, which basically means not much chance, because it goes through a rural reserve, and you are not supposed to do new infrastructure in a rural reserve. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Greg?
Well, it was really kind of, I thought, strange. One of the things they said when they're doing the rural reserve is, if there's any future projects you want to do in this rural reserve, speak now, or forever hold your peace, or at least for 50 years. And so nobody pointed to that one. They were all looking, I guess, the other side of town or something, on Ivy or something, because that was one of the ones that kind of dropped off. Nobody from the county, state, city said anything about the Arndt Road connection. And so that one is kind of dropped off. But we did ask them if there was possibility of that getting back on, because they're also looking at the 50-year plan for rural reserve is now being challenged, if I'm not mistaken, and so they are looking at that. So that's one we would go back in and ask to be at least put on the potential project list down the road.
And one thing they did mention is that if projects had been planned for before rural reserves were in place, those might still be considered. So some of the improvements around the Barlow intersection might be a second option.
You know, if they hold firm with that, where nothing new goes through an urban reserve, that's basically cut off the entire all of the rural cities in Clackamas County from improving the infrastructure to their community. Every one. I mean, it has to affect. Sandy and Malala and,
Another thing that it did was, it restricted the lane number, the lane count also, which over a 50-year period, you think about the need to expand, people are going to show up. And you think about the continued two-lane roads, it doesn't quite make it. But they said Arndt Road is restricted to 2 lanes, and that's from, I believe, the airport this way,
think
the whole
so.
distance.
So it may be something that can be continued to be talked about in the Community Solutions Team process. I know that our
That's right.
Business Oregon contact, Michael Williams, is definitely itching to jump to our defense on this if we so choose. So my next step is to summarize the projects that we heard about at that meeting and share that with you, as well as community stakeholders like the Bike and Ped Committee might want to weigh in on those types of improvements that are on the list. And especially at the county level, they're going to be starting a public involvement process starting June 15th, I think, for a month. So we've got a little bit of time to educate our stakeholders about what's important and kind of rally the troops on behalf of some of these projects, because it does matter how well and how articulately and how forcefully people weigh in on these things.
well, I think we need to resurrect some of the information that came out during the TSP planning from the state of Oregon regarding the bottleneck in Barlow. And that was, I don't remember the details, but basically there was impact on our TSP because of the Barlow intersection that's not in our jurisdiction. And there was a bunch of state input on that. And
I'd forgotten about the Community Solutions Team, and that came up in that meeting, and 2 of the people that are on the Community Solutions Team locally for this region were at that table. Kelly, I've forgotten her name, from ODOT, and Mr. Williams, is that his name?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams from Business Oregon, and the lady from ODOT, I've forgotten her name.
I'm
But
blanking too.
those 2 people are on the Community Solutions Team.
Greg?
Good catch, Rich. I had forgotten about that, but that's quite a catch-22, that our TSP, we were having things shoved down our throat from the state because of conditions outside of our
That's right.
city.
We were having to mitigate their problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe also Commissioner Hensley and Commissioner Hodson, in their role on C4, can also gain some alliances with our other Clackamas County communities and put this on an agenda item, because it doesn't make sense, with economic development and freight mobility. It is a key concern of ours that we can get product in and out, and I think we've even had some discussions over the past couple of years with companies that have been a little iffy on how easily we can get things in and out of Canby. So we've got to have a game plan to improve that. We can't have a country road leading out of Canby to I-5 for the next 50 years.
Right.
Definitely not.
So more to come on that. Matilda and I will be putting things down to paper that you can reflect on and decide how you would like to weigh in collectively or individually on that.
Well, I also thought it was really good that we pointed out to them that in the vision we had, one of our action items was to have regular meetings. And I think the county said, we've got one now, and we will get the state there and the city, and they thought that was a great idea, to
Right.
have those regular meetings on a face-to-face.
Yep.
So,
And they meet quarterly, and there was definitely reception to the idea of partnering on transitioning county roads to city, and how that works, is a conversation for another day, but
yeah.
they seemed open to that. No surprise. So moving on, in terms of team track development, some hopefully good news to report on that. Matilda Deese, our senior planner, had prepared a grant application to ODOT TGM division for a feasibility analysis. to see what the demand might be and what types of features a successful team track might need in our community. And the grant reviewer has requested an on-site meeting, which is a very positive sign. They usually don't do that if they're not serious. So we're meeting with them on Thursday, Matilda and I, as well as the property owner and our rail partner, Oregon Pacific Railroad. So hopefully that's a fruitful meeting, and hopefully I have good news to report next time. If the grant is approved, they could do the feasibility analysis pretty quickly, within a month or so. So we're excited about that. In terms of industrial site certification, Canby's gone through 2 rounds already. I was looking at the notebook. It was back in, I think, 2004 was the first one, so, almost 10 years ago now. We've gone through 2 rounds, and the certification that we have is has expired. So I met with our Business Oregon team to launch that process. The timing works really well because the county is also working on an online mapping tool that'll create a lot more information about all of our sites as well, which will be additional information for the site certification. As part of that, we're going to be inviting all the property owners, industrial and commercial, to a meeting to understand it better, because they need to sign a letter saying that they want to be part of this database. We're not going to promote any site unless the property owner consents. We have that meeting scheduled for June 4th in the evening. So we're reaching out to all of the vacant industrial and commercial property owners in Canby to encourage them to take part of the program. And that's all I have.
Greg?
I wanted to check with our new members. When Renata uses the term team track, are you familiar with that? Could you explain the scope of that project? Because it is a game changer if that goes through.
Okay. So as backdrop, in the Portland metro area, there are very few vacant rail-served sites. And as gas prices continue to increase, and as the highways get more and more congested, the argument for rail becomes stronger and stronger. And on the national level, most of the railroads have been investing heavily over the past couple years and plan to continue in upgrading their tracks because they see the market potential. So in Canby, we are in an ideal situation because we have direct access to the UP main line, but we don't need to deal with Union Pacific, which is a huge blessing. I guess I shouldn't say that in public.
It's problematic.
Anyway, they're challenging. But in this case, we work with the owner of the Oregon Pacific Railroad, who's been a very successful operator of a short line between Molalla and Canby for over 30 years, and who has consistently invested in keeping his track up to date and expanding his capacity. And he's very interested in this concept because he sees it as an opportunity to expand his business. At the same time, there is a 10-acre site in the Canby Pioneer Industrial Park that's right behind the Arneson Gardens and behind Fred Meyer. It's kind of an odd-shaped piece that's, has been on the market for a while. They've dropped their price considerably, and it's still on the market. So challenging. And so she's really interested in making something happen on that site this year. And when we talked to her about this opportunity, she was excited. They're not just any property owner, they are industrial developers. They can build things, they know how to do it, they've built facilities with rail, they have rail experts that they have brought to the table to consult with us. So at our last meeting, we did a fatal flaws analysis with the rail expert, the property owner, and our rail partner, and there really is no reason technically that it couldn't work. There's enough space, there's enough turning radius, there's good access, the alignment is fine, everything works. The only thing we don't know is there enough market demand? So that's where this feasibility analysis comes in. So to step back, a team track is access to the rail lines for either trailers or containers for anybody. Someone can pull up a truck, load it up on the team track. You don't have to be a property owner adjacent to a rail line to have access to rail with a team track. So what it does, in essence, is makes the entire Canby Pioneer Industrial Park rail served, as opposed to the 2 sites that we have rail served now. So that will really help the marketability of the industrial park. It will also help our existing employers that would like to ship by rail, because rail's a lot cheaper. You can put 4 times the volume on a rail car than you could in a trailer. So it just makes all kinds of economic sense. And if you look at the larger market, we're surrounded by some of the best nursery land in the state. And one of their biggest markets is the East Coast. So it's been a hard struggle over the past 4 years because they're heavily dependent on the housing market. That's starting to emerge again. And so as times continue to change and get better, that market is going to continue to be an opportunity for our surrounding nursery growers. Get some refrigerated cars or containers, and one of their biggest costs is transportation. If they can use rail, they can put 4 times as much at a lower cost. It's a huge win for them. So.
Doesn't seem like we'd have to worry that much about access to I-5 from here then.
Well, it would help in those particular situations
Yeah.
where people use
Right.
containers.
The majority of the ones.
One of the businesses that Renata mentioned is expanding right now in Canby is not in the industrial park, but they're in the southeast, the southeast part of town. And they do 2+ containers a month of product every month. And they would love to be able to have closer access to where they don't have to arrange the shipping from the port out here, particularly with the bottlenecks the port is having with their issues up there.
Have we heard anything about, I've received emails about this, coal cars coming through Canby to get to Newport, I believe it is? Coos Bay, excuse me. And have you heard anything about that? I mean, the added cars that they would add going through Canby, going and coming?
I've heard about it, and they're very long trains. Sometimes they're a mile long.
Right.
And one of the big issues that you hear about in the news is the coal dust.
Right.
But I had understood that the Coos Bay option was not going forward.
It was in the newspaper today that Kinder Morgan was going to develop that, and they have canceled it. They're pulling off. They're not going to do it.
Good.
Yeah. So the other point about the team track is that if you provide access to rail for our local manufacturers, that frees up more capacity on Sequoia Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
These people within the park are using the team track as opposed to going out through that intersection. And one of the requirements that ODOT has talked about in the long term is that we might need to add an additional northern access point, either Otto Road or somewhere in that vicinity, or Haynes Road, who knows what it is. But if we have this alternative mode, it'll reduce the congestion at that bottleneck and either defer or maybe eliminate the need to expand that. So, I mean, there's just lots of good reasons to try and explore this.
And you see, Ken, where this goes is that American Steel bought a piece of property that had access to the rail spur. They have exclusive access. They can move heavy product in and out of there. But a team track turns the entire industrial park into a shipping hub.
Right.
Well, to that point too, I think it even opens up, something like Wilson Construction. If they've got to truck stuff down to California they can load it up on the train track, and that can run it down a lot faster and cheaper than trying to drive it all down themselves. So, I mean, Potter Industries, we've got Johnson Controls, So it's a long process, but I think if we can lock this down, that'd be something new for Canby.
Yeah, I just didn't want us to be sitting here talking about team track for another year and not
right.
have people grasp it. It will. There have been small towns up and down the West Coast that have done this sort of thing, and it's been a complete game changer for them. They become a center of commerce in the region.
The closest similar facility, I think, is in Salem. So we're much closer to the Portland metro area. I think there might be something kind of in the north, Port of Portland, but on the more north and west side, so harder for our part of the world to get to, plus you have to go through all the congestion to get there. So, yeah, it seems promising.
Okay, good.
All right.
Questions?
I had one
Greg,
item.
comment?
There's an industrial forum at Wilson Construction.
No, it's at Johnson Controls, and it's next Wednesday, starting at 8. There'll be a presentation about inventory control, and from 8 to 9:30 or 10, and there's usually a presentation by a expert on the subject, and then there's a tour of the facility. So invite all of you to attend if you are free.
Cookies usually are involved.
Cookies.
Usually Danish is at some
Bring
point.
cookies.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Renata, thanks. Good report.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our agenda. Is there any other comments or
That's the
anything
same
to come
time as the
for
Dahlia planning.
the commission?
I have nothing, Chairman.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn, sir.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hodson, second by Commissioner Ryder to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
That's all.